Hello everyone, this is Rod Graham, and this is the first of two videos that are meant to aid you as you move through your quantitative research project. So for this particular video, I'll go through the downloading of the software that you'll use, or even talking about using SPSS on campus. You have two options. So I'll talk about the software that you need, and then I'll show you where to get your data from and how to download the data. I'll talk a little bit about some of the logic behind why I'm asking you to jump through these hoops even. Just some background, right? So that's how I'll start. And then I'll move into some questions on your actual assignment. And I'll do some of those questions in this video, mainly the sort of introductory questions. And then I'll stop. And then the second video will be about producing descriptive and inferential statistics and then talking about them, right? So it's going to be two videos. This first one is to set things up and really get you started on your assignment. And the second one will be about completing that assignment. Okay, so what you're looking at right now is just a page on Blackboard for your course. And your project documents will be where you would expect, quantitative research project. So what I've done to make it easier for me to change files is, instead of uploading to Blackboard here, I've uploaded it to my personal Google Drive, the files, and then when you click on this, you'll go to that folder, and then you can get the data that you need and your assignments. So you click on that link and you see all of this information here. And so let me briefly explain what these are. So this is your actual assignment. This is the setup for assignment. This is actually going to be the first thing we look at. This is a mock assignment that I've done. For those of you who've already done the writing project, which I suggest that you do that earlier, that in the quizzes before you start this. But for those of you who've done the writing assignment, you'll notice that I did a mock writing assignment to sort of guide you. And so I've done the same thing here. So there's a mock quantitative analysis assignment. Then you've got your 4 data sets, and then you've got a code book which corresponds to the data set. Okay, so let me start with the setup. Click on that. It should open up. All right, so you should see this. The first thing you have to do is get the software to analyze the data. Now, some courses, maybe in business, or maybe if you took the stats course earlier, you should have, I believe. I think all CRIM and SOC students are required to take a stats course. Then maybe they used either pencil and paper or even Excel to analyze data. But social scientists, sociologists, criminologists, psychologists, political scientists, what have you, the most popular software to analyze quantitative data is SPSS. Now, there's a problem. We're not in a computer lab, and we're in the midst of this pandemic, and so it might be that students, and so SPSS is on campus, and it's in computer labs, but it might be that students either are reluctant to go on campus, or can't go on campus, or just for their own safety. They don't want to be around others. The safety of them and also their family members, right? Because you can spread the virus. So it might be that people don't have access to SPSS. Now, I understand that there's some way that you can download a student copy. Honestly, I don't know how it's done. I don't even use SPSS in my normal statistical activities. Like when I'm doing my research, I use something else. So I don't know. I mean, I went on ODU's website and I looked for that, and it was telling me about how I need to buy something. So I don't know. Maybe there's a student link that you can go to and download SPSS. If you can, then I suggest that you use SPSS, because that's the same software you'll be using in your capstone course. And this is to prepare, and this assignment is actually preparing you for that. However, if you don't have SPSS and you can't get it, there's an alternative. And it's the one that I used for this assignment, and that is Pspp. The GNU is GNU Pspp. So this is software that was written for a different operating system, But the same way that you've got the word processing program for Mac, and then the word processing program for the PC, Microsoft Word, and they can share documents. At least I think they can. Well, it's the same here, and in the setup is very similar. It's the same here. So even though I will be demonstrating this assignment through PSPP, the aesthetic, the look, and the feel of PSPP is very similar to SPSS, and of course the statistics and the analysis is exactly the same. Now, you'll have to download PSPP on your own. Let me go to that page and show you what it looks like. I think I can, yeah. All right, so this is the page for PSPP, and so you can look around on this website. You can see that it's actually the stats program for a different operating system, the GNU operating system that I've never used, but it can be used on. But the software can be used on many different operating systems. So whether you have a Mac or whether you have a PC, you can still download it using this link. And I've given you the links here, right? So you can just go to those links and download it. And Windows, the extension is always .exe for executable file. And even though I don't use Mac, I assume that it's always .dmg. Okay, so you need to download this software. The software PSPP should look like this. You should see something similar when you download it, and eventually when you download it and open some data, it should look something like this, right? So if you don't have something like that, then something is wrong, right? But you have to have this. Like this is the only way it looks. So when you download the software and you open up a data file, a .save file, you should get this. Okay, so let's go back here and talk about the data. So let me explain my logic here, what's happening. Now, what the normal process of data analysis is that you come up with some kind of research question, and then you develop a survey or a questionnaire, and then you administer that questionnaire to some collection of respondents, right? Adults, teens, high school students, college students, what have you. And then often that, at least in the old days, the survey was on a piece of paper, and then you take that paper, and then you take the values from that paper and you put it in a spreadsheet, right, to then be analyzed by a computer. Now a lot of this is done completely electronically, but it's the same process. Okay, so the survey that I'm asking you to, or the data I'm asking you to use is partly a real one. The Pew Research Center does surveys all the time. And so what I did was I took this survey from 2018 that was done between March and April of 2018. I took that survey and then I modified it to fit our class. So it's real data with some exceptions. So I think on the code book that I'll show you in a minute, I point that out. Like you can't, this is just for instructional purposes. You know, I've changed things, so it's not real data. But however, social scientists do actually take the data from Pew and produce peer-reviewed research. I've done it several times. So what I did was I took that survey, which asked 1,000 teens, although in the survey I think only 743 respondents were there. But it asked about 1,000 teens questions about technology in schools. And so I took that and I divided that survey up into 4 different ones. And so depending on your last name, the first letter of your last name, you will get a different data set, right? So you can just, decide, okay, my last name is Anderson, so I will do, this will be the one I will analyze. So you can download it from here. The links should work. If there is some problem, then the data sets are also here. And the data sets are always .sav, and .sav is opened by either SPSS or PSPP. Okay, so now you download the software, and then you download the data. And let's say that you now open the software or open the data. And so I have some mock data here. This is a completely different data set, right? So I did one just for me, right? You have a different one. So yours will have some similarities, but these questions here you won't see on your data set. So don't be alarmed if you don't have the exact same data that I'm showing you here. I did it on purpose because I don't want you to just follow what I do when you do your assignment. There's no learning there. I want you to do your own stuff. But I'll be using this data set to demonstrate what you need to do. Okay, so let me go back and show you the code book. So the code book, all right, let's see here. What the code book does is it explains what each variable is in your data set. So I'm going to have to do some bouncing back and forth now. And it may seem like I'm going a little slow because I have to tell, I'm doing a screen capture. So I have to tell the software, okay, capture this data, capture this screen, capture this screen. So I have like a little extra step. So when I tell you I'm switching over, then I have to do something in the background to switch over. So it could be a little delay. But let me switch over now to the SPSS or Pspp, and I'm going to try to do a back and forth. So if you look at the Pspp here, what you'll see, as you saw in your textbook, is a spreadsheet. Now I'm going to go down here to where it says Data View. And what we'll see is, if you've taken your quizzes already, you should know that cases are in rows like this. That's a case, that's a case, that's a case. And variables are in columns: case ID, gender, age, P, Hadoop, blah, 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 blah. So here you're looking at the exact values. So you know, this was done on paper, as you'll do it when you're in your capstone course. First, you would have had person 1. You give them a anonymous number, so that's the case ID 2. And then you'll have some kind of numerical value. So even though you're asking the question in words, like what is your gender, in order for the computer to analyze it, it needs to be turned into a number. And that's where the code book comes in. So here you see this number 1, okay? So person, the first case that you've given the ID to of 2, so you don't use like gem, you anonymize it, right? That's ethical, right? Like what we learned earlier, chapter 5, I believe. So you anonymize the data, and then this person says, okay, I am male or female, and you put it into the system as this number here. So what does that mean? Well, that's where the code book comes in. So this code book explains what all the data means. So I put here the actual opening page for the real data set, which tells you, okay, the population of interest are teens ages 13 to 17. These are the people that they asked. They spoke to 1,000 kids. My guess is that some people didn't respond or they deleted some data, so you don't have 1,000. You have 730 something. It was done, the project name is Teen Survey 2018. And so that's the opening page, right? These are the people being asked. So here you've got the variable names, and then you've got what the numbers represent in the spreadsheet. So 1 is male, right? So you ask the person a question, what is your gender? And they say, well, I'm a male, so they get a 1. So when you go back to Pspp, you should see a 1 there, right? And so you do that on down the line. If you want to know what a particular variable means, then you have to go to the code book. Or you can look at the variable view. The variable view has male and female here, and if a person refuses to answer, then they will get a value of 99. So you can look at the code book or the variable view to understand what your variables mean. Now, the reason why it's essential to have the code book is because these values have to be inputted manually. So sometimes people just don't put the values in. They just simply put the numbers in, with data view, and then leave the labels blank. So you have to always start with the code book in reality. But if the person who's inputting the data does their due diligence and they put in all the values here, then you can just use the variable view. So for example, let's look at combined race and ethnicity. You say 1 is white, non-Hispanic. Let me make sure that you're actually seeing this. Let me check my output here. You're not actually seeing this. Let me move it here. Let me see. Give me a second. Okay. All right. Bear with me. So it will not, unfortunately, you're seeing something different here. It won't let me show when I open up this value label here. So you have to do that on your own. But it would show white, non-Hispanic, black, non-Hispanic, Hispanic, other, right? Which would correspond to what's in the code book. Okay, good to know for the next video that I can't show you that, unfortunately. So you've got that. So you're getting some orientation of what the data set looks like. And if you've gone through the quizzes already, some of this should be very familiar to you. In fact, let me show you something quickly here. Here is a page from your text. This is chapter 6, I believe, the nature of data. And here you've got this diagram of levels of abstraction, right? So theories are just in the air, concepts. You build a theory that you want to test, and eventually you get down to real world phenomena. So that spreadsheet is the variables and the values, right? So the variable would be gender, and then the values would be male or female. So there's some correspondence here between what you did in your text and what you're actually looking at. Let me go back to Pspp one more time, because I've been focusing on gender a lot. So this goes for all of them. So even things that don't have value labels. So in order to know what contacts are, you need to look at your code book. Once you get that information, and this is just a number of contacts in their phone, the code book will tell you that, you see that there's no value labels there, but that's fine. The values are 0 contacts, 1 contact, 2 contact, 3 contact, to infinity. So you can't write those in here. So in order to know what they are, you need to use the code book, right? But it's still the same scheme, variables and values. Okay, so I think that that's a good setup, right? That gets us what we need. So now I think I want to go to and if you have any trouble downloading Pspp, shoot me an email, and maybe I can work with you one-on-one. I can do like a Zoom call, and I can share my screen, and we can do it that way. But it should be pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Okay, so now I want to go to your, actually no, let me say a little bit more about the variables before I move on, and your data sets. So you've got these 4 data sets here: posting, homework, guns, and cell phone. So the way that I've organized it is every data set has the same beginning variables: case ID, gender, age, parents' education, race, ethnicity, income, region. Every data set also has the same cell phone variables. That would be how many contacts are in your phone, how many hours per week are on your cell phone. But what makes the data sets different are the topic modules. So some of you will have questions about how does someone feel about when they don't have their cell phone. Are you anxious? Are you relieved, upset, happy, lonely? Some of you will have questions about guns. I was surprised that they threw those particular sets of questions on that survey. But I guess, teens are concerned about school shootings, and so they wanted to ask about that. So some of you have that. Some of you have the homework module. And then some of you have the posting module, right? Like, what do you post online, right? So you have different modules. And so the first 2 parts everyone has, but then the actual things that you're wanting that are of interest, right? The things that you'd build theory around, the things that you would ask research questions about, hypotheses about, those can be different. Now I think I'm ready to move on to the assignment. So here's the actual assignment. Okay, let me close the code book, close some of these windows, close the setup, close the Teens Tech. Okay, so this is your assignment. And briefly, let me explain some of my logic here. I wanted to divide, as is common, each question into divided by points and what I think is most important. And so you can see that the summary counts the most, but each question matters, right? And so you want to make sure that you answer each one and look at the point value. In the past, I've had some difficulty with students turning in work that was substandard in terms of organization and care. They just throw the answers on a sheet of paper, and then I have to go and hunt and try and understand what's happening. So I want to make clear that, okay, this is the format you need to follow. And this isn't a writing assignment, so I'm not going to count it against you if you don't turn it in the right way, but I'm just not going to grade it, right? So if you turn in something that I can't read, then okay, fine, you did some good work, but I don't quite know what you're getting at here. So please, reorganize this using the instructions I have here, and then I can grade it, right? And I'm so concerned about this that I put it twice, right, at the beginning and at the end here. So make sure that you follow the format, right? Before you turn it in, make sure that it fits that format. Now you've got your questions, and the questions are designed to be similar to the questions on your quizzes. They're guiding questions, right? So as you answer the questions, you learn about quantitative data analysis. So the first question, show your data set and data view. Basically, I'm asking you to understand that you can have a data view on Pspp and a variable view, just like on SPSS. Describe in a few sentences what is covered in your data set. Basically, I want you to know that, okay, you have a certain module that will allow you to ask certain research questions or develop certain hypotheses, right? Right. So that's what I'm doing here. Or state a research question. So now that you're past 1 and 2, you understand that, all right, my topic module is asking about guns. So I need to develop a research question or hypothesis about guns. And then I remind you to go back to chapter 3 so that you'll know the difference between the research question and hypothesis. Okay, so that's the logic behind all of this. Okay, now I also did a mock assignment. Let me pull that up. And I did this for 2 reasons. One, it's a demonstration, right? Like you need to know what I want you to do. But 2, I want you to get a sense of how you can organize your paper. What I do with whenever I'm doing screenshots is I insert a 1-cell table, and then I cut and paste, or I do a screenshot of my screen and paste that into the table. So what that does is it tells Word that, okay, this space is reserved for some content. So no matter what you do around it, your screenshot doesn't shift around your page, which can happen if you just cut and paste it, So just cut and paste it without a table. So I usually build a table, right? A 1-cell table, and then put the screenshot in the table. Also, email me and I can help you download some free app to do screenshots. But I think at this point, most people have been doing this so much, they've got their own app that they like to use to do their screenshots. I use I have a Windows computer, so I use a Snip and Sketch, I believe, or something like that. So okay, so I use I take the screenshot and I put it in. So this is an example of the data set in data view, and this is an example of the data set in variable view. Easy points. It's just to get you to know that you got 2 views. And then I answer the rest of the questions. In this particular video, I think I'm going to stop at question 5, but I'll go through these and kind of talk through them so you'll know how to go about answering these questions. Okay, so let's go back to the assignment. And I think I'll just take it question by question. So you can answer these, you can answer these. Chapter 3 talks about the difference between a research question and a hypothesis. I think everyone kind of knows, but it is important for you to know that you can go back and review, right? You don't have to guess. So if you go back to structuring the research project, and I think it's page 32. Page 32 gives you 3 ways of defining a research problem. You can use a question, you can do a hypothesis or hypothesis if it's one, and a proposition. And I don't want you to do a proposition. That's just a bit too involved. So either a research question, just one, or either a hypothesis. That's what I would like you to do. Now, state a bivariate relationship that you want to test. So your research question and hypothesis should be fairly abstract, meaning it should not include the actual variables themselves. So the variable is a measure of a concept. Go back and look at chapter 6 to understand how that works. But your research question should be very broad, right? So if your data set is about homework, maybe you may say, well, what is the effect of cell phone usage on homework, right? That's very abstract. So then the actual survey asks specific questions about cell phone usage and homework. And so you need to develop a question, you need to state a bivariate relationship that is specific and testable, right? So you can look at my example here. And what I tried to do is give an example of a research question and a hypothesis. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's question 3. Question 4, I sort of write it out here. And what you can do is look at what I've said here and then go back and then write your question or hypothesis. Okay, so let's do number 5 here. I want you to refer to the chapter 6 levels of measurement and then list one variable, each that is nominal, ordinal, or interval ratio. Now, this is very, very important. I repeat, this is very, very important because your statistics that you generate and your tests that you do are all contingent upon the level of measurement. So, okay, let me shift back to chapter 6. And let's see here. Let me find it. This gets very confusing for me, bouncing back and forth. So, let's see. It should be at the end if I remember that chapter. Oh, wait. Maybe it's at the beginning. I need to find nominal and ordinal variables. So bear with me. Maybe I'll just search for it. I thought it was chapter 6. Let's see. Okay. Measurement of data. So that's page 73 is where it starts. So you've got 3 levels of measurement: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. I will suggest that you go back and read these here and look at the summaries here. Also, you will have taken your quizzes. Also, you can look at my examples or what I wrote in my sample assignment. And there's also another way to do this. Let me go back to Pspp and I'll show you. So here are the measures, right? So this is the column measure. This is the measure column. This is in variable view. So the way that both SPSS and PSPP knows, how to work with the variable is it looks at its particular measure. So here you've got it written right here. So the case ID is a nominal variable. I can change that if I want, but I don't want to. The case ID is a nominal variable. The age is a scale variable. Now, for both PSPP and SPSS, they collapse interval and ratio down to scale. The reason being that for most statistical processes, that's enough. Like you don't need to separate interval and ratio. You can do the same statistics, right? The reason why we have different levels of measurement is because you can only do certain statistics with certain levels of measurement. Well, the thing about the interval and ratio, at least for most purposes, is that they do the same. You can do the same types of statistics most of the time, and so SPSS and PSPP just collapse it down to scale. So you've got nominal, ordinal, and scale. Let me move back. So if you look at question 5, I've organized it that way. So you've got your nominal variable, your ordinal variable, and then your interval or ratio variable, right? So scale, right? I also want you to list the values for the nominal measure and the values for the ordinal measure, right? So because variables have different values assigned to them, and you can see that on PSPP. And you can also see that on your mock assignment, right? So, okay, so what I've done here is sort of talk to you through downloading PSPP, getting your data, explaining the rationale behind the data, getting you started on your quantitative analysis assignment and explaining the rationale behind it, showing you this mock assignment, and I think that's good. I think that's enough to get anyone started. You've got a lot of materials to help you, this video and the mock assignment. As always, if you have any questions, especially about downloading PSPP, because you have to have, like, there's no way around it. You have to have PSPP or SPSS. So if you're having trouble getting this software started, please email me and maybe we can do something by Zoom or I can answer your question by email. Otherwise, have a good day, and I'll do the second part of this assignment very soon.